Hello and welcome again to Piedmont Business Live. I'm your host, Ken Morris, and today we're talking to Justin Stalek. He is the president of Omnia Search. Justin, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
First, tell me a bit about the origins of your business and your background.
Well, I was a typical entrepreneur. I got tired of making money for everybody else. I was a sales guy and worked in various industries and had worked for some venture capitalists after starting out in corporate America. I was actually an old power tool guy and then got into the startup world and worked with some venture capitalists and startups and turnarounds. And then about 8 or 9 years ago, I moved down here and went to the nonprofit, which then evolved into the government and defense field. And but I'd always hired and built teams, and one thing leads to another. I'd used search firms in the past, and I'd seen good and bad, and being a person that had built teams, I said, you know what, I've actually done the hiring. There's a lot of people who are former HR people, but I'm a guy that, I had to make that decision at the end of the day. Is this the guy that I want? And I took some of those lessons that I did and started this company.
And that can be a really hard decision because you want to make sure you hire the right person, and there's a lot that goes into that.
Yes. Yeah. It was funny. I took a lot of the lessons that I did in sales and when I was building teams. It's kind of a funny story. When I was starting to do this, I was on a flight, and you get the little magazines in the airplane, and there was an article on Bill Walsh, the famous 49ers coach, and I'm a big sports fan, and we'll talk a little bit about what I do in this company. But one thing he did when he turned, the 49ers were a horrible franchise when he came in. Yep. And what he did was, he looked at all the measurables. We all see the NFL Combine every year and all that. He took it a step further and he said, I'm going to start looking at people and do psychological assessments on them to find out if they're going to fit within my team culture. Look, there could be 20 guys that can run a 4.4 40, be 6'3", 250 pounds, but if he doesn't fit into his team culture, it's not going to work. And he was really the first guy to do that. And you'll see things like Wonderlic and whatnot. And I was like, man, that's a great idea. And companies have done that for years with assessments. So I sought out a couple different things. And when I started building teams, that's what I would do. Is like, it wouldn't work for me when I would hire. Look, you could have the greatest resume in the world and give the greatest interview. But at the end of the day, if you don't fit within that company's culture or that team's culture, it's not going to work. And so that's kind of what I did as a search firm, was like, hey, there's a better way of doing this. And then harnessing, the assessments have gotten a lot better. Computers have gotten a lot better. And also harnessing technology. I make it a lot more interactive with what I do. And because a lot of search firms will just send you a bunch of resumes. With what we do in our process, it's a kind of an open process, and the technology allows you to go in and see where we're at, because there's been times where we've recruited people where we haven't felt as strongly about, but hey, our clients say, hey, we like them more than you do, and at the end of the day, they're the ones calling the shot. So that's kind of how it all started, and it's been a crazy ride ever since. And as I was saying earlier, 5 years ago I had hair.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Right.
Well, it's interesting that you're talking about fitting in with a team's culture or even a company's culture, and that calls to mind to me. You see, some people they'll go to one team or organization, and for whatever reason it doesn't work.
Right.
Then they go to another one, and they're a tremendous success. Right. And I would imagine that the culture of the difference in culture of those two places is probably the key in that.
Right, and we're all different, and it's funny. A lot of my clients, I didn't work in maybe their specific industries, so what we do in our assessments is that we find out, hey, a little bit about. We just don't measure, our candidates. We also measure the companies, and we've found that has been a real windfall for us, because then we can kind of get a baseline of what this company's is, what's their strengths, what's their weaknesses, what makes them tick, and it's really from a success rate and a hiring rate. We, in 5 years of business, we have a 1-year guarantee. We've never had to rehire somebody, and I'm very proud to say that in 5 years of business.
That's excellent. So tell me, what markets or channels do you work with?
Well, having worked in hardware and the power tool business, that's one of my big businesses. I also do, I'd worked in the DoD field. We do a lot of work in the military and industrial field. And what that is, it's not the guys making planes and that. We're dealing with people making what they call tactical equipment for the individual soldiers. So we do a lot of work with tactical companies. And then our other business is college administration and college sports. And so we've been changing some things and how they're done. And what we've done over there, it was funny how this business started. We've seen a lot of other search firms out there, but they're not doing what we're doing with the assessment and the cultural piece. And then also, because of our military work we do, we often do clearance level jobs. And what we do is high-end background searches as well. So a lot of our business now in the college world, especially in the sports world, is doing a lot of background checks, but it's not your typical looking at a database. I mean, anybody can do that for $150. What we're doing is we're going in and we're interviewing people, because in our military world, we're often, if we're doing a clearance level job and he needs a clearance, we have to figure out that he can get a clearance.
Right. I see.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's not just us saying, oh, okay, this guy's a great guy. Well, if he can't get a clearance, it's not, I can't hire him.
Right.
So we're taking those things and we're bringing it over to the college level. You've probably seen it a couple times. There's been a couple hires. There was a basketball hire at a school a few years ago. It got announced on ESPN, and it turns out the guy didn't have a degree.
Yeah.
So, and when these colleges are spending millions of dollars with coaching salaries going through the roof, it's kind of comforting. It mitigates their risk.
Yeah, and it pays to go that extra mile to find out those extra things that you need to know to avoid that happening, because that could save you a bundle.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what types of positions do you fill?
Anywhere from mid-management in the private sector, the non-collegiate sector. We're doing mid-management up, anything in operations, sales, HR, anything really mid-management up. That's, we're not a staffing company. We're a strictly executive search. The collegiate level, we're doing administration, on the administrative side. We're not doing professors or anything like that. What we're doing is the administration, the leadership. As well in the athletic field, we're doing athletic directors, assistant athletic directors, the administration, as well as coaches, and mainly on the D1 level.
Gotcha. Okay. And, there are other firms out there that you compete with.
Right.
Some of them are considerably bigger. So how do you compete against those?
Well, it's kind of funny. We're a single shingle, if you will. But what we have done, there's some very large international firms. We joined with a network of recruiters that's worldwide. We're part of the largest independent co-op of recruiters around the world, made up of 500 firms with more than 1,400 recruiters. So what will happen is I'll have clients come to me and say, hey, IT is not my strength, for example. And I had a company a few months ago that wanted me to help them with an IT job. So I reached out to one of my fellow members, say, hey, look, I'm not an IT guy. Can you help me? This year I did a hire in China. I never, if you would have told me 4 years ago that I'd be doing a hire in China. So now we're, it's funny, I'm on 6 continents. I don't think I'm going to be hiring anything in Antarctica, but
who knows?
You never know. So I did a job in China. I did a job in Southeast Asia. And I never would have thought that I would be doing something like that. And that to me is it's a godsend, really. And a lot of these other firms, what has happened is this is just their specialty, and they're only, their network is only so big. Well, I can pull from a candidate base of more than 2 to 3 million people.
Yeah.
So it's been a godsend.
Well, Andrew Carnegie, the great steel magnate, used to say, you don't have to be an expert in everything.
Right.
You just have to know experts in everything.
Exactly. There was also a saying is always hire somebody smarter than you.
Yep. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you see hiring headed in the next year, next 5 years?
It's going to be really interesting with the presidential changeover and the administration. Things are going to change a little bit. With a Republican in the White House and the Senate, you're going to see a very, I think, strong hiring in the defense field. I think that's going to be you're going to see a big upswing, because over the last 4 years, it's been a downswing. And I see in our defense business that's going to really grow. Obviously, IT is always going to be there. It's ever expanding. It's ever changing. That's going to be absolutely huge. You know, I'm anxious to see what's going to happen with the new administration, and our manufacturing jobs going to come back. You know, that's the big thing. Is it going to happen? I don't know. You know, that's what we're all kind of waiting to see. But really, if you're in the field, obviously, medicine is going to be huge. There's going to be a lot of openings in the medicine field, as well as distribution. I mean, and we're already seeing it now. I mean, anybody who has their radio, they probably hear an advertisement looking for truckers. You know, even though I don't hire them, logistics is absolutely a booming industry right now, especially in the search field.
Terrific. Justin, thanks so much for sharing your story with us. And if you want to know more about Omnia Search and Justin, please go to their website. It's at the bottom of this page, and the link is also going to be shared with you at the end of this video. Justin, we wish you great success, and thanks again for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to Piedmont Business Live. We'll see you again next time.